Hey everyone, I am in the middle of downsizing and depotting, and before I take apart this eyeshadow palette, I want to show it to you close up. This is the Camera Ready Cosmetics and Viseart eyeshadow palette. It's a palette that I really love. There are a lot of really great shades in this palette. I'm going to show you this close up. I'm going to swatch some of the shadows for you. As you know, I pretty much exclusively only work with Viseart shadows in my kit, and I often get asked a lot about which palettes are my favorite, what to look for if you are watching and you're building your kit or buying a good all-purpose palette. And this is one of those palettes that really checks off a lot of boxes for me. I don't know how long this is going to be available for, but I'll just give you a good idea what to look for if you are thinking about adding an eyeshadow palette to your kit. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing gloves today. I have a little cut on my finger and I have a little hangnail on this finger here. Anytime we have non-intact skin on our hands, you want to glove up when you are handling the contents of your kit or doing your makeup applications. So that's what I'm doing today. And always remember, if you are going to be gloving up for anything, make sure you perform hand hygiene before you put on your gloves and immediately after you take them off. I'm going to flip the camera, walk you through this palette, talk to you about some of the shades, and we'll do some swatching as well. I will also cover off in this video how to apply eyeshadow hygienically. One thing I should also mention is that I'm currently wearing a mask to do this video. If you are somebody that is filming content with products that are going to be going into your kit, or when you're depotting, remember you're breathing over these products when you're working with them. So it's best to wear a mask so you don't contaminate anything in your kit. So let me give you a good close look at this palette. I'm sorry if these blue gloves are distracting. It's the only color I could find in my size. So as I said, this is the Camera Ready Cosmetics and Viseart palette. It's a palette that has shades in here that I use often. With a palette like this, the shadows are predominantly matte and you have one or two that are shimmery. And I recommend investing in more matte shadows. I mean, it's nice to have a variety, but if you're looking at introducing something like this or introducing a higher quality shadow than what you already have in your kit, getting shadows that are matte are going to be more useful, and you can transform them in different ways. So you can always make your eyeshadows more shimmery by layering perhaps some other shadows that you have from another brand over top. You can use highlighters. You can make your shadows more shimmery with an eyeshadow base. There's lots of different techniques that you can implement to change the finish of these shadows. When you have a full palette of all these shimmery eyeshadows, that is not going to be as flexible for the different jobs you're going to be doing. So for me, predominantly matte eyeshadow palette is usually a good investment with the option to kind of change the finish. The other thing this eyeshadow palette gives you, you get a bit of color, nothing too crazy. This is a maroon and a navy blue. So these are nice to have if you're doing some more dramatic looks. These are shades that look great on a number of different skin tones. Sometimes brighter colors like orange and green may not work for everybody, but you have an option with these two that's just a little bit different than your standard basic eyeshadow colors. In this area here, these are great as base shadows for lighter skin. These will be great for medium to deep skin. And then you have some deeper colors with these three, a really deep brown and a gray as well. So you can do everything from a natural look to a very heavy smoky eye. So there's some versatility there as well. In terms of how to apply your eyeshadows hygienically, remember no double dipping at any time with anything in our kit. So you can scrape the shadows onto a palette and work off a palette, or you can use the cotton pad method, which I'm going to show you. This is the easiest way to do things hygienically. The cotton pads I have, I can show you them here. I just purchased them from Costco. I buy them in like 2 or 3 cases at a time because I go through a lot of them, and these are my favorite. I also like a cotton pad that is textured on one side and smooth on another, and you're also looking for cotton pads that are low lint. You don't want a lot of fluff flying around, especially if you're going to be using these to apply eyeshadow. I like to use the textured side to pick up my shadow, but you can use both sides. It will work just fine. So you'll pick up the color with your cotton pad, and then you're going to take your brush and you're going to apply the shadow from your cotton pad to the skin. So that's how the application is going to go. No double dipping. This is actually quite easy and convenient. And then if you need to, you can take this cotton pad with a little eyeshadow on it and keep it in your touch-up kit. If you need something like that on set with you, you can have access to the eyeshadow this way. And then I'll show you just a quick application on my arm so you can see. This is a maroon and almost kind of that navy. It's a really deep muted kind of blue, which is really nice. These are going to look great on a lot of different skin tones. So just to give you an idea of what some of the shades look like on a cotton pad, I won't do all of them, but I'm going to grab some more of this coppery shadow and I'll show you what it looks like on the skin too. Show you one of the shades just on the top of my arm here so you can see what it looks like. This is a MAC 217, so it's kind of a larger, fluffier brush, so the application of the color is not going to be as opaque. Okay, so it's got really nice soft texture to it when you apply it. There's not a ton of fallout. You can blend it really easily. You can soften your edges really nicely, which is great to have. I'm just going to pick up some more color and I'll show it to you over the primer. That's the Viseart primer here. I just put a little bit on the inside of my arm. So you can see it really grabs onto the color when you use a primer. But again, it's just very easy to work with, very pigmented. You can blend out your edges really seamlessly, which is great. And that's just mixing some of that maroon color with that light brown. So there's a lot of options that you have with a palette like this. And I'll show you the finish of that coppery shade. I really love that shadow. For that, I just use a damp brush, so I usually dampen it with just a thermal water spray. Let me do that off camera. And then I'll show you the finish you can get with this. And this is over an area of my arm that does not have a primer. Okay, so it has a really beautiful finish. And I'll show you the same thing, same shadow without. So even when you're applying the shadow and it's not damp, you can still get a nice finish with the Viseart, but sometimes using that damp brush just kicks it up a notch and it's really, really pretty. There's a little more information for you about this palette. There's a lot of positive things about a palette like this. So in terms of what to look for if you are building your kit or if you're looking to add in higher quality shadows to your kit, I like to have predominantly matte shadows because it's much easier to take something matte and make it shimmery versus the opposite way. It's hard to mattify a shimmery shadow sometimes without putting a lot of extra product on the eye, which might not look great. The other great thing about a palette that is predominantly made with matte shadows is that you can use the matte shadows for things like liner. You can also use the matte shadows to fill in brows. There are mixing mediums that you can mix in with shadows to make them liquid liner, so you have a lot of options with matte shadows. And of course, change the finish of them by adding a shimmery shadow or highlighter on top. If you want to warm up certain shadows, remember you can always mix in a bit of blush. So there's lots of mixing you can do there, but that's what I like about just a basic matte shadow palette like this one. In terms of shades I would add to this and what I'm going to be adding likely for my own palette, I'm getting rid of these two shades because I don't use anything this light. I'd rather use just a regular highlighter or something that is closer to the actual skin tone of my client. I don't ever work with anything this light around the eyes, so that's going. I would add a solid matte black shadow. I also like to have a variety of taupe shadows or these kind of medium to light brown shadows because that's what I work with predominantly, and it's faster for me when I have a few shade options. So I might do something a bit warmer, and I also may get something that's just kind of in between this shade and this shade, so something a bit deeper. I would also add a warm dark brown. That is a shadow that I use a lot of, and then I'll throw in probably a few plums and pinks just so I have everything covered. Also, just so you know, if you are depotting something like this, it's very easy to depot. You can just stick your spatula in here, pull your shadow out. There's no melting, no heating, no candle, no open flame to depot these, so it's very simple. I'm going to be putting my eyeshadows into a Perfect palette. I did another video on Perfect palettes, so that's what I'm going to be downsizing my eyeshadow palette into. I'll be taking most of the shades from here, and then I'll be supplementing with other Viseart shadows. I've taken apart all of my Viseart palettes, so I'm not sure what's what anymore, but I'll make sure to do a video and share the final product and what it looks like with you. So if you have any questions about anything, you can put them in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye everyone.